You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. On today's episode of the podcast, we review match number 31 of the ICC T20 World Cup for 2022 between Australia and Ireland from the Gabba. It's the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast, and let's get started. Let's have a look at the match summary from game number 31 of this ICC T20 World Cup for 2022 between Australia and Ireland from the Gabba. Australia batted first and made 5 for 179 from their 20 overs. Aaron Finch top scored with 63, and Barry McCarthy took 3 wickets for Ireland. Ireland needed 180 runs to win. They were bowled out for 137 from 18.1 overs. Lauren Tucker top scored with 71 not out. Glenn Maxwell, Adam Zampa, Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc all took 2 wickets each for Australia. Australia won by 42 runs and Aaron Finch was named Player of the Match. What were the key moments and key factors from match number 31 of the ICC T20 World Cup for 2022 between Australia and Ireland? Australia's batting, reaching 179, was a good score and proved to be a challenge for Ireland. Partnerships of 52 for the second wicket between Finch and Mitchell Marsh and 70 for the fourth wicket between Finch and Stoinis were key partnerships for Australia to reach that 179 score. Australia's bowling, having Ireland 5 for 49 inside the power play, is where Australia had this game, and they were able to bowl Ireland out for 137 and win by 42 runs. Those were the key moments and key factors from match number 31 of the ICC T20 World Cup for 2022 between Australia and Ireland from the Gabba. Let's have a look at both teams' performances in match number 31 of this ICC T20 World Cup for 2022 between Australia and Ireland at the Gabba with both bat and ball. We'll start with Australia and their batters. Warner 3, Finch 63, Mitchell Marsh 28, Maxwell 13, Stoinis 35, David 15 not out, and Wade 7 not out. That's how the Australian batters went about things against Ireland in this match at the Gabba. Australia's batting in this match showed some more improvement from the game against Sri Lanka. 179 was a good score in the end, and it was a challenge for Ireland to chase down 180. And in the end, Ireland just didn't get going in the run chase. The partnerships of 52 for the second wicket between Finch and Marsh and 70 for the fourth wicket between Finch and Stoinis were key partnerships to get Australia to that 179 score. It was pretty much simple for Australia in this game. Get a big score against Ireland, look to bowl them out cheaply, and look to improve the net run rate, obviously, because for Australia to qualify for the semi-finals, they would need to boost their net run rate. And they did improve their net run rate a lot in this game against Ireland. Obviously, they would have liked to improve it more, obviously. They didn't quite get it right with the ball when they bowled to Ireland, obviously. They were in a very good position to bowl them out for less. Unfortunately, they didn't quite manage to do that. We'll talk about that in a minute with the bowling, but going back to the batting side of things of this game for Australia, those partnerships, as I mentioned, of 52 and 70 for the second and fourth wickets were the key for Australia to get to that 179 score. In the end, it was a good score to set Ireland. As I mentioned, challenge for Ireland. They didn't quite get going in the run chase. Aaron Finch was pretty good. He batted well for his 63. A lot of criticism, a lot of pressure on Aaron Finch going into this T20 World Cup and about his spot. A lot of people questioning that. But he was returning to some sort of his best. He looked a little bit better in this game against Ireland than he did in Perth against Sri Lanka. We all know what happened in that innings. He didn't time the ball at all. Couldn't hit it off the square. He just looked awful. He looked ugly. And in this game against Ireland, he was just starting to get motoring again and starting to get that fluency and rhythm into his batting. His innings was crucial. He pretty much batted through a majority of the innings. Unfortunately, got out towards the end, but he pretty much did his job. And those two partnerships he had with Marsh, 52 for the second wicket, and with Stoinis, 70 for the fourth wicket, were pretty much the partnerships that got Australia to a good position in this match. Returned to some sort of his best, as I mentioned. Also, he's under a bit of an injury cloud, Aaron Finch. He pulled up a little bit lame in the field. Apparently, he twinged his hamstring, so he could be in doubt for the crucial match against Afghanistan on Friday. Let's hope it's not too bad. He's just starting to get back into some form and get back into the runs, Aaron Finch. But let's hope he's okay for that game. But he batted well, and Australia will be delighted with how he batted in this match. Also, with Australia's batting, the shot selection at times was good, other times not so good. And that's something that they need to improve on going forward, Australia. It's just making good decisions with the bat and also making good shot selection decisions as well. At times, they were a bit poor in this match again, as it has been throughout this tournament for Australia. At times, the batters have been playing shots that they shouldn't have played. So it's something that they need to work on continuously, improve that going forward. No batting collapses from Australia in this innings, which was good. Other from that, apart from those things, their batting was good. Obviously, just starting to get motoring, obviously. And the batting will need to fire in the big game against Afghanistan in Adelaide on Friday. And obviously look to post a big score against Afghanistan like they did against Ireland. So the batting group is showing signs of improvement. They're improving little by little, which is good signs for Australia going forward into the last game against Afghanistan, which will be the important game for them in terms if they qualify for the semi-finals or not. But overall, it was good batting performance from Australia. Let's have a look at the Australian bowlers and their performance in this match against Ireland. 2 wickets for Maxwell, Stark, Cummins and Zampa. No wickets for Hazelwood and a wicket for Stoinis. That's how they went about things, the Australian bowlers, against Ireland here at the Gabba. Australia's bowling was a bit of a mixed bag in this game against Ireland. It was pretty good in the first half of the innings, but the second half of the innings was not so good. And we'll talk about that right now. With the pace bounce of the Gabba wicket, plus their pace bowlers, the Australian bowlers, I should say, were in their element and challenged the Irish batters. They did well early on in the Irish innings. They had Ireland 7 down for 91 inside 12.2 overs. Did well to take early wickets in the power play, but also throughout the innings at regular intervals to put Ireland under pressure. They bowled good lines and lengths in that period, executed their plans well. So Australia had an opportunity to bowl Ireland out for under 100, and they should have bowled them for under 100 or just over 100. In the end, Ireland got to a score of 130 odd, and Australia won't be happy about that because their bowling towards the end of the Irish innings was poor. They didn't bowl good lines and lengths, didn't execute their plans, should have bowled Ireland out for under 100. Now, Australia's net run rate in this tournament has been poor. When they lost the first game to New Zealand by a big margin of over 80 runs, seems like an eternity ago that match happened, but they did. That made their net run rate poor. They improved it slightly against Ireland, but they could have made it a lot better, and it could have been in the positives. But they got it wrong with the ball in the second half of the innings, and it was so frustrating to watching the game as I did. And they didn't really keep it simple enough. I think Australia expected that the wickets will fall and the job will be over straight away. You can't think like that. You can't be complacent and just say, oh, it's going to happen. You have to bowl well to make it happen. And that's why I think they were caught in two minds a little bit. Right, a little bit of complacency probably kicked in and said, you know what, we've got Ireland down, 7 down for not many. The last few wickets are going to fall cheaply. We're going to get the job done. And they just sort of lacked off the intensity a bit. The intensity was lacking after that with the ball. As it was at the start of the innings, the intensity was up, the body language was good, but towards the end of the innings, the body language was down. And that usually happens when you've got a side down 7 for not many. Your body language, the intensity goes down, and you're not really performing at your best as you were earlier in the game. And that's what happened with Australia here. Now, Australia, their chances of qualifying for the semi-finals are very narrow. The path is narrowing day by day. Now, obviously, Australia wanted New Zealand to win against England last night at the Gabba. Unfortunately, England won that game and New Zealand did not win. So that makes Australia's path to the semi-finals difficult. They will need other results to go their way to qualify. And that's why if we're in a situation where New Zealand, Australia and England are tied on the same amount of points, it will come down to the net run rate. And this game against Ireland and the game against Afghanistan are crucial because of that, to improve the net run rate. Now, not bowling Ireland out cheaply and Tucker scoring the runs he did, he scored 71 not out, that could cost Australia in the end and could come back to bite them, which it may do. But they've only got themselves to blame. And the bowling performance after that was poor. And look, Australia's bowling's been a bit of a mixed bag in this tournament anyway. But anyway, what they need to do going into the next game against Afghanistan is to be on it from ball one like they were against Ireland in the first half of the innings in this game. But look to be ruthless and look to be aggressive and look to take wickets every ball. And they can definitely do that against Afghanistan because Afghanistan's batting is not as strong. They're going to be challenged by the Australian quicks, and we know that. If Australia can get it right with the ball, be consistent throughout the whole innings, bowl them out cheaply, boost the net run rate, they've got a chance of qualifying for the semi-finals. But if they bowl the way they did in the second half of the Irish innings, they will not do that and kiss the semi-finals goodbye, and you can forget about winning the tournament back-to-back. And you probably don't deserve to go through after bowling that sort of rubbish at the Irish batters in the last game, because it was rubbish. Really, it was rubbish towards the end of the second innings of that Irish run chase. You know, Australia should have been ruthless and should have bowled them out cheaply. Unfortunately, they didn't do that because they got it wrong. So overall, it was not a good bowling performance from Australia in the second half of the Irish innings, but the first half of the Irish innings was good. But they will need to improve that going forward into the game against Afghanistan. Overall, it was a mixed performance from Australia with both bat and ball in this game against Ireland. Let's have a look at Ireland's team performance with both bat and ball in match number 31 of this ICC T20 World Cup for 2022 between Australia and Ireland at the Gabba. We'll start with their batters. Sterling, 11. Balbirnie, 6. Tucker, 71 not out. Tector, 6. Canfer, 0. And Dockrell, 0. That's how the Irish batters went about things against Australia here at the Gabba. Ireland's batting was poor, and I think most people would agree with that in this match. Didn't get going at all in the run chase. Chasing a score of 180 was going to be a very difficult challenge for Ireland, and they had to start well if they were able to pose a bit of a challenge to Australia and chase down the runs at the Gabba. Unfortunately, that didn't quite happen. They lost wickets at regular intervals, 1 for 18, 2 for 18, 3 for 24, 4 for 25, 5 for 25, 6 for 68, 7 for 91, 8 for 103, 9 for 136, and all out for 137. They also lacked partnerships of any significance. 18, 0, 6, 1, 0, 43, 23, 12, 33 and 1. Being 5 for 49 inside 6 overs of the power play pretty much set Ireland back in the run chase. They struggled with the pace and bounce of the Gabba wicket. They also struggled with the pace of the Australian quicks. The only one who didn't struggle and who batted really well was Lorcan Tucker. Batted well for his 71 not out. Looked at ease at the crease compared to his other Irish batters who really struggled. But Tucker seemed to love the pace and bounce, and he really made the most of his innings, obviously, and a good experience for him to face Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood, and also facing the quality bowlers of Australia. To score 71 not out was a pretty good performance for him. He was by far the standout batter for Ireland in this match against Australia. Also, poor shot selection from Ireland. Didn't handle the pressure well. Chasing 180, losing wickets. That always sets you back in a T20 match. As soon as you lose wickets in clumps, have a batting collapse of some sort, it does set you back big time. And that's what happened with Ireland. Didn't really have any momentum. Didn't really get going at all. But this experience will serve them well in the long run. Facing Australia, batting against their bowlers, this experience will help Ireland in terms of their development as a cricket team going forward. The only way Ireland can get better and improve and go forward with their cricket is by playing the top teams like Australia, etc., and have this experience. Obviously, some games will hurt. This one will definitely hurt Ireland in terms that they didn't really quite perform well with both bat and ball. But as I mentioned, this experience will serve them well. So overall, it was a poor batting performance from Ireland. Didn't really get going at all in the run chase. And chasing 180 was a very hard task for their batters. Let's have a look at Ireland's bowlers and their performance in this match against Australia. No wickets for Dockrell, Delaney, Adair, Hand. 3 wickets for McCarthy and 2 wickets for Liddle. That's how the Irish bowlers went about things against Australia. Ireland's bowling was poor in this match against Australia. They did well to get Australia 1 for 8 inside 2.1 overs, dismissing David Warner quite early on in the innings. Then to have them 3 for 84 inside 10.5 overs was a good effort from the Irish bowlers. But towards the end of the innings is where things started to go wrong for Ireland. Australia started to put the Irish bowlers under pressure with the bat. Ireland didn't quite handle that pressure well. They leaked runs, bowled poor lines and lengths, weren't consistent in their lines and lengths, didn't execute their plans with the ball at all. And really, Australia made them pay for those mistakes. And Ireland didn't quite do the basics well enough with the ball there. So it was a very poor performance with the ball from Ireland. But there were some positives from the bowling performance, and we can often focus on the negatives, but there were some positives that I took out from the Irish bowling performance. Barry McCarthy bowled well. He took 3 for 29 in his 4 overs. I think he was the standout bowler for Ireland. By far, everyone else struggled. He seemed to pick up wickets and do well. Also, he caught a very good catch on the boundary. Unfortunately, he had to throw it over the rope and he saved 6 runs, but that was a magnificent fielding effort from him. So he had a pretty good game with the ball and also in the field, taking that amazing catch, which in the end wasn't a catch, but he saved 6 runs for Ireland, and that's the main thing. Josh Liddle took 2 wickets. I thought he was the second best Irish bowler. He's got some pace. He's got something about him. I didn't really see a lot of him before this match against Australia, to be honest, but obviously when you watch these teams like Ireland and Zimbabwe and these other teams around the world, you see players that you haven't seen before and you're really impressed by how they go about things. I was impressed with Liddle. He bowled some good pace. He was touching 140. He's got some express pace about him. So that's good signs for Irish cricket going forward. As I mentioned with the batting, this experience will serve the Irish bowlers well in the long run. Obviously, it wasn't their greatest night with the ball, but there were some positives. But bowling to Australia's best batters that they have, like Warner, Mitchell Marsh, Finch, Maxwell, Stoinis, it would serve them well going forward as a team, knowing that this experience will help us in the long run to develop as a bowling unit and also as a cricket team in general. So overall, it was a poor bowling performance from Ireland, not their best bowling performance, but this experience will serve them well. And overall, it was a poor team performance from Ireland with both bat and ball in this game against Australia. Let's preview Australia and Ireland's next matches of this ICC T20 World Cup for 2022. Talk about the potential 11s for both teams. We'll start with Australia. Their next match is against Afghanistan. That's at the Adelaide Oval on November the 4th, on Friday. Australia do have some injury concerns. Aaron Finch complained of a hamstring twinge. Tim David had hamstring tightness. Same with Marcus Stoinis. So Australia have some injury concerns going into the last game of this Super 12 stage for them in a must-win game if they are to qualify for the semi-finals. Now, obviously the potential options that Australia have, Cameron Green could come in if Aaron Finch is going to be ruled out. He could come in and open the batting with David Warner, as he has done previously. And if either Tim David or Marcus Stoinis are injured, then probably Steve Smith comes in for one of them. I think Tim David and Marcus Stoinis should be all right, according to what I've read and heard and seen. Aaron Finch is only the one that's a concern, really. He's the one that's really in doubt. Tim David, I think, and Marcus Stoinis should play. But as I mentioned, if one of them gets injured, then probably Steve Smith comes in for either David or Stoinis. If Aaron Finch is ruled out, probably Cameron Green to come in. So Australia could make one change or two changes, or even three to their team, depending how Stoinis and David and Finch pull up. But the potential 11, I've really factored in that maybe Aaron Finch is probably the one to miss out. And if that happens, probably Cameron Green will come in, replace him, and open the batting with David Warner, which I think is a straightforward decision. So their potential 11, Australia, for their next match against Afghanistan: Warner, Finch or Green, Mitchell Marsh, Maxwell, Stoinis, David, Wade, Stark, Cummins, Samper and Hazelwood. Let's have a look at Ireland's potential 11 for their next match against New Zealand, which will be at the Adelaide Oval on November the 4th. Now, I think Ireland will just keep the same 11 for their last game of the Super 12 stage against New Zealand. I think this 11 that Ireland have selected for this game against Australia, and obviously the game that they played against England, is probably their best 11 that they have at the moment in this T20 World Cup. So I don't think they'll change the 11 at all. If they want to make a change, depends on conditions or matchups or whatever like that, then they'll make a change. But I think they'll keep the same 11 and keep the faith in the playing 11. So their potential 11 for their next match against New Zealand from the Adelaide Oval could be Sterling, Balbirnie, Tucker, Tector, Camphor, Dockrell, Delaney, Adair, Han, McCarthy and Little. What can we expect from both teams heading into their next matches of this ICC T20 World Cup for 2022? Australia will be fully focused on what they need to do for their next game against Afghanistan at the Adelaide Oval on November the 4th. They'll be looking to do the basics well with both bat and ball, and will be looking to get the 2 points and improve their net run rate. Ireland will be disappointed in the way they played against Australia. They'll be looking to put in a good performance with both bat and ball for their next match against New Zealand on November the 4th at the Adelaide Oval. Ireland will be extra motivated for this game against New Zealand, seeing that New Zealand lost to England. New Zealand's semi-final hopes hinge on this game against Ireland. So Ireland will be looking to finish their T20 World Cup off on a winning note and could potentially knock out New Zealand. In a must-win game to keep their T20 World Cup semi-final hopes alive, Australia managed to get the job done over Ireland, but their semi-final hopes are still in the balance. After England defeated New Zealand, Australia must win against Afghanistan by a big margin to improve their poor net run rate if they have any chance of qualifying for the semi-finals. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get the latest episodes of the podcast, and like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.